Imagine someone sitting in one place, not for an hour, not for 3 hours, not even for 8 hours, but for 16 long hours, every single day, listening to people's sins, comforting the broken, and bringing them back to God. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? Yet one Catholic priest did exactly that. Thousands traveled across France just to spend a few minutes with him. Some waited for hours, others traveled for days just to confess this humble village priest. Who was he? Why do Catholics celebrate his feast every year on 4th August? And why did the church declare him the patron saint of parish priests? Today, let me tell you the incredible story of Saint John Vianney, a man who proved that holiness doesn't require fame, only complete surrender to God. Our story begins in France. The year was 1786. John Vianney was born into a poor farming family. He wasn't born in royalty. He wasn't a genius. He wasn't famous. In fact, if you had met him as a child, you probably wouldn't have imagined he would become one of the greatest priests in history. His parents were deeply Catholic. Every evening, the family prayed together. From childhood, John loved visiting churches. Even while helping on the farm, his heart belonged to God. But growing up wasn't easy. At that time, France was going through the French Revolution. The government began persecuting the Catholic Church. Many churches were closed. Priests who refused to obey the government were either arrested or even killed. Imagine this. Instead of walking freely into church on a Sunday, your family had to secretly meet a priest in someone's home. The curtains were closed. Everyone whispered. If soldiers found them, both the priest and the people could be arrested. This was the world in which young John grew up. Seeing priests risk their lives to celebrate Mass left a deep mark on him. He quietly told himself, one day I too shall become a priest. But there was a huge problem. John was a terrible student, especially when it came to Latin, the language required for seminary studies. No matter how hard he tried, he simply couldn't understand it. He failed exams again and again and again. Many people told him, "You are not intelligent enough to become a priest." Imagine hearing that your biggest dream will never come true. Most people would have quit. John didn't. He prayed harder, studied longer, trusted God more. Finally, after years of perseverance, he was ordained a priest in the year 1815. His success wasn't because he was the smartest, it was because he refused to give up. After ordination, John was sent to a tiny village called Ars. Only about 230 people lived there. When he arrived, the village had almost forgotten God. Many people skipped Mass. Some spent Sundays drinking, gambling, or working instead of worshipping. Faith had become cold. John wasn't sent to a famous cathedral. He wasn't given a large city parish. He was sent to a place that almost everyone else would have ignored. But God had a different plan. John didn't begin by giving angry sermons. He began by praying for hours. He fasted. He visited families. He comforted the sick. He helped the poor. Slowly, he won people's hearts. People noticed something different. The priest genuinely loved them. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He simply wanted to lead them closer to Jesus. And then word began spreading across France. There is a priest in us who understands people's souls. Soon people started arriving, not hundreds, but in thousands, every day. Some came by a horse, some walked for days. Some traveled simply because they heard The priest will help you find God's mercy. And Father John Vianney welcomed them. During busy periods, he spent up to 16 hours a day inside the confessional. Imagine that, hour after hour, listening, encouraging, forgiving sins in the name of Christ. Some days he barely had time to eat or sleep, yet he never complained, because every confession meant one more soul returning to God. Many people believed God had given John extraordinary spiritual gifts. One famous story tells us of a man who traveled to Ars intending only to observe the famous priest. He hadn't planned to go for confession, but before the man even spoke, Father Vianney gently mentioned sins from his past that no one else knew. The man was stunned. He realized God truly knew him. That encounter led him to make a sincere confession and change his entire life. Many pilgrims shared similar experiences. Others said Father Vianney seemed to know exactly what burden they were carrying before they spoke. The church has always taught caution regarding extraordinary stories, but many of these testimonies helped spread his reputation for holiness. What everyone agreed was on this: lives were changing, families were returning to God, sinners were finding hope again. That was his greatest miracle. John Vianney never became a bishop. He never led a large religious order. He never traveled around the world. He simply became the best parish priest he could be. He loved his people. He loved celebrating the Mass with devotion. He preached with simplicity. He spent countless hours hearing confessions. For this very reason, the Church declared him the patron saint of parish priests. He reminds every priest that holiness is found in faithfully serving the people of God, which he has entrusted to them. After decades of serving the people of Ars, Father John Vianney died on 4th August 1859. Thousands mourned him. People already believed he was a saint. In 1925, he was canonized by the Church. Today, millions of Catholics honor him as Saint John Vianney. His feast is celebrated every year on 4th August, especially with gratitude for priests serving in parishes around the world. As I was reading the life of Saint John the Vianney, one question came to my heart. What makes a person truly successful? Today, we admire people with millions of followers, big houses, luxury cars, fame. But heaven celebrated a man who spent his life sitting inside a small wooden confessional. Why? Because he brought people back to God. He reminds us that greatness is not measured by popularity, it is measured by faithfulness. Maybe God is not asking you to preach to thousands. Maybe He's simply asking you to love your family, serve your parish, forgive someone who hurt you, pray every day, and remain faithful in small things. Because small acts done with great love can change the world. The story of Saint John Vianney teaches us that God doesn't choose only the smartest, the richest, or the most talented. He chooses willing hearts. A poor farmer's son who struggled in school became one of the greatest priests the church has ever known. And even today, more than 160 years after his death, his life continues to inspire priests and ordinary believers across the world. On his feast of Saint John the Vianney, let us pray especially for our parish priests. Pray that they may remain faithful. Pray that they remain holy. Pray that they never grow tired and are leading souls to Christ. And if you haven't been to confession in a long time, perhaps this is God's invitation for you to return to His mercy. If the story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this beautiful channel, Faith Over Feelings Always.